Right, yoga zone, here we go, everybody. Thank you for the wonderful chats about plantar fasciitis and shoulder bursitis and all the things. And so with this in mind of how our body is just one big connected organism and that everything affects everything, we're going to start off with pranayama, breath work, that is at the heart of winding down inflammation and all of that. We're just going to start on our back bodies. If you're more comfortable with something under the knees, grab a bolster. You know, if you're at home, you can always even put your legs up on a ottoman or what have you. Get comfy, back body if you can. And the first thing we're going to do is just organically stretch and move. So I'd love you to reach arms overhead and roll out those wrists and roll out those ankles and open up that mouth. Lion stretch. Maybe reaching organically through one arm and one foot and then the other, pointing, flexing again, every bit of organic movement that your body says yes to, give it. Then when you feel ready to settle, it might not be yet. Maybe you're like, oh, I gotta massage my scalp. I gotta pull on my ears, right? You got options. But when you're ready to settle, simply in corpse pose, 3 sighing breaths, inhaling slow, deep and wide. Let it rise up the body, a beautiful breath wave. And then through the mouth. Again, this is to your breath timing, never anyone else's.
Who wants to be the first one to start?
I know we're Midwesterners, we don't love to make noise in public, especially making the sound of breathing. Thank gosh we've got yoga to come to where we know it's not only okay, but it's a gift to each other. That sighing breath says, we are well, we are whole, we are safe. So any of that nervous system that's fired up around not safe or I've got to take care of something. Anytime you feel that, add another sigh and let it wind down. When you feel complete, begin breathing only through the nose. Light connection, tip of the tongue, roof of the mouth. A softness through the jaw, through the base of the tongue. It's like you could hold something delicate in your mouth, a favorite little flower bud or something like that. You might even add or invite a soft smile. I don't mean something so big that I could see it across the room, just enough for you to feel the shift in the tissues of your cheeks and lips. All of this adds up to saying, I'm here for my yoga practice, non-striving. I'm awake in my body, I'm curious. I'm approaching my practice with compassion, love, deep affection for this amazing body that does so well. And we'll come into our compression and expansion breathing. So on your exhale, a firm drawing of the abdomen towards the spine, anchoring the lower back, mid-back into the floor, emptying, emptying, emptying. Is there more? And when there's nothing left, soften. Allow your natural spinal curve to return. We're going to continue with this for multiple rounds. So really sink into it. I'm going to be offering some attention points. If it's too much, just let my voice wash on by. Your main thing is emptying as completely as you can, and then receiving the breath wave, the inhale, and expanding it. The slowest, deepest breath out and in that you've ever had. When you're in that powerful exhale compression, see if you can remain soft in the back of the skull neck area, occipital ridge. You might roll the head side to side. For those of us that are chronic neck tighteners, shruggers, this is a really important reprogramming opportunity. Power at your center, boom. Nothing in the neck and shoulders, the mouth, the tongue remains soft. During that exhale compression, you should feel your pelvis, your pubic bone basically tilt upward. If that's not happening, that tells me you are not anchoring your low back into the floor. And it can be helpful to try and communicate with some of your muscles. Like most of us are pretty weak through the lower abdominal muscles between the hip bones. So sometimes I'll take my fingers and I'll just poke there and say, you, hey, you, get involved. You could also add the perineum, the pelvic floor engagement, like you're trying to cut off a flow of urine. And a really interesting, beautiful side effect of doing this core power engagement so deeply, they've studied that it radically affects self-esteem. And so if you feel like you could use a bump in some just self-confidence and self-presence and ease with self, getting strong and stable in the core is a beautiful way to work with the emotional body. In these next rounds, inviting you to get curious about the pause that exists between the turns of the breath. There is a place that is neither exhale nor inhale, and we're going to try and identify those moments and float in them. My favorite tool is asking of the inhale and exhale, is there more? Is there more? Has your mind wandered off? That is the most normal thing in the world. It's inevitable. So if you're feeling pretty critical about that, I would recommend that you find a way to let that go because it's not useful. And I mean, really how horrible, right? To be critical of self for something that's inevitable and then built into your humanness. That's not nice. Let it go. Notice, let it go. We're going to continue with this for, again, multiple rounds. I'm going to invite you to do some add-ons. If you're like, hey, I'm really enjoying this exactly as it is, continue on. We're going to turn our compression exhale into rock pose, and then I'll invite you in a moment after that to add sit-up. So rock pose, simply let the exhale initiate, belly drawing down to spine as you have been, and then tightening the whole body. Hands into fists and arms into sides, butt cheeks and thighs, feet flexing or curling. Emptying, 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 emptying. If you can whisper, you've still got exhale in there. Emptying, emptying. And then on the inhale, you can just soften and allow, or you might crave reaching the arms overhead. This will also change the position of where you receive the inhale and that beautiful internal massage. As you exhale, if you'd like, invitation not only to have rock pose, but a sit-up motion. I always let the downward power of the low back and belly create the upward swing of the chest and upper back. Is there more? Let's do one more like that. Now that nice ujjayi, that beautiful throat breath. And release. Lovely. Bring right knee into the belly, release wind pose. Heels are flexed, left thigh anchoring firmly to floor. No wings, no shrugs. So shoulder heads are down, elbows are in. Big belly breath, letting the belly meet the thigh. Then we're going to switch, and I encourage you to notice the difference perhaps side to side. Some of you might feel quite neutral, but many of us might feel ourselves pulled a little to one side, or it's just a lot harder to get the thigh towards the belly perhaps. Remember, we want to flex through both heels and power down through the floor thigh. Let's switch again. As you bring your right thigh towards your right belly, you're actually massaging the ascending colon a little bit. So getting a nice digestive organ massage. And switching again, left knee in. If it creates a lot of tension in your body to have the feet flexed constantly like that, give it the counter stretch of pointing and then return. But heel flexed helps protect the knees and engage the thigh muscles in some very different ways. That is great for us. All right, one more. Inhale that right knee into the belly. Exhaling, so you can get your thigh a little closer. Then inhaling, extend the right leg to the sky, heel flexed. And then point and flex. And for those of us that are tight today, that definitely is me. Just having that leg up and flexing through the heel, I can feel quite a bit through my calf and hamstrings, and you might feel it in your foot if you're dealing with a little plantar fasciitis. On your exhale, anchor through that low back and belly quite vigorously, and slowly descend that right leg as if you're trying to paint a stripe on the wall in front of you. And then invitation to melt. That might be the hardest thing we try to do. All right, left knee into the belly, release wind pose. Again, no wings, no shrugs, big belly breath. Emptying, get that thigh a little closer as you reach away through your right heel, very important. And then inhaling, extend that left leg to the sky. Point, flex, roll, explore, observe. Our body gives us so many interesting signals if we're just curious enough. Exhale, root down and slowly descend that left leg. Try to keep the abdominal wall drawing down versus popping up and out. And again, practice melting. And I'm going to invite you to rotate your toes as far in towards each other as you can and kind of flex them back towards the kneecap. And then go the other way, rotating them out and flex towards the kneecap. And you should be able to kind of get your heel off the floor if you push through the heels. And then rotating in, out, and then a nice big roll. Beautiful. Let's bring the feet flat underneath the knees for bridge pose. Some of us really benefit from grabbing a block and placing it between the thighs, giving us some more awareness of those muscles that stabilize the whole pelvis. Gather a long inhale, working shoulder blades towards each other, and then exhaling, rising up through the hips. Is there more? Inhale, descending as slowly as you can. I'm going to do this for a few rounds. If you're feeling any neck pressure, release the chin up and back. Let your raising of the hips get initiated with the exhale, belly drawing down, just like you were doing in compression exhale. And you'll feel it's a very different process to raise the hips from that place. If you're feeling any low back pressure, try tucking the tailbone a little bit more, squeezing the glutes a little more. And nice softness through the face, the tongue. I hope once in a while that breath wave surprises you, but it just goes a little wider and lower and higher than what you anticipated, simply because you were patient and curious enough to hang out for it. All right, the next time we're up, we're gonna add foot hover. I like releasing the block before I do that. And a reminder that in foot hover, you really only want your feet maybe 4 inches, 5 inches at most. You don't want to make it unnecessarily hard. So raise the hips, then gently lift one foot an inch off the floor, excuse me. Notice if your hip dropped, try to stabilize it and slowly switch. So take all the time you need to. And by the way, if bringing the foot off the floor is actually too much, it's painful or what have you, then just shift your weight from foot to foot. That could be plenty. And if you want to go into leg extension, straightening the leg, you can. Keep the thighs the same height, you got it. Keeping the heel flexed is great. Again, knee stability, it creates a lot of strength through the legs. Ooh, all right, let's come into happy baby. You know, some of us love having a strap for happy baby. I'm one of those, especially if I'm particularly tight that day in hamstrings. So I'm going to take the strap across my arches of my feet. You could also use a scarf, or if you're able to hold your feet at the blade or the big toe, then groovy, all right? But we would love to be able to anchor the shoulder heads down the back and then tilt the tailbone towards the floor so that the whole spine is connecting with the mat versus being all curled up and tight. Good, and from this place, big inhale, big belly breath, press it all the way down into the pelvis. And on the exhale, see if you can apply a little more pressure to draw the knees towards the floor alongside the ribs. What's in there today? What's knowable? And then as a tight hamstring and IT band person, one of my favorites is half straddle. So I'm going to take my hands down behind the knees or the thighs right above the knees. And I'm just going to let one heel kind of drop in towards the butt. And I'm going to try and straighten the other leg out into like a half a V or half straddle. And this plane here is so useful. And I think it can be helpful to kind of come in and out of a straight leg. So you kind of bend your knee and then try to re-press through the heel. And switching, you might find yourself rocking or rolling a little to one side. Your head might want to follow along, all good. And then bringing the heels together by the butt in butterfly. You can always use the strap around the feet to hold on to if you need to make your arms longer. And right here, we're going to simply bring one foot towards the head and then the other. And it might only move an inch. It doesn't have to go far to be useful. I think of this as WD-40ing the hip. If you like adding a little sit-up motion, you're welcome to do that. Lovely. And then we're going to plant our feet wide in horse riding stance. So the feet are flat at whatever angle feels natural in order for you to raise the hips and not feel any torque into the knee. Again, always working the shoulder heads a little in underneath you to protect that cervical spine. And even though we're holding the pose, it's not frozen. We might be dipping the hips a little and then reinvigorating the height. You might come all the way out and in. And slowly releasing. Lovely. We're going to let the right knee come down towards the center line of the mat. Now you have the option of keeping the left knee completely upright or letting it sort of go out to the left. I encourage you to explore. Stay away from anything that feels tweaky on your low back. And then we'll take that right arm up behind us. This is an opportunity to stretch into that deep psoas muscle. We're going to give that some attention today. I was reminded during our stress and trauma relief workshop this weekend at Third Mountain, just how key the Psoas is in stress and tension and not safe that we hold in our bodies. Right, slowly return the arm to the body, then switch legs. It's just a little safer for the low back. Then the left leg down, again, right leg might stay upright or kind of flop to the right. Left arm reaching up, breathing deeply. So the psoas muscle is that deep abdominal muscle that connects right in under the hip bones here and then travels amazingly all the way through the body and connects at the back, at the almost at the upper, kind of mid spine really. And it's the muscle that allows us to contract to either fight or flee. So we need it to be strong. And we also need it to have some flexibility and fluidity. I like that word. That's my new word, fluidity. Because if it pulls too tight, you could pull it and injure it, but also it pulls often on people's low backs. As you're ready, return the arm to the body, then the leg, and then walk the feet, soles of the feet towards each other, please, allowing the knees to settle open in our butterfly. We're gonna just hang out first in a little relaxed butterfly pose. I want to point out that if you're ever in that relaxed pose and it's feeling kind of twingy or impingy or pressury in your hip, you can take a cushion or block under the outer part of the leg to keep it from going quite so far. Even if you're flexible enough to go that far, it might actually not feel great. And you're of course welcome to stay here or turn this into strength building with me. Let's raise those hips up off of the floor. These muscles that we are activating here are deeply involved in our structural integrity, holding us together, keeping us stable, strong. Again, our ability to root, to create power, to take a stand. Right, so we want to be able to feel them and wake them up. Obviously, if something hurts or is just kind of getting too much activity, if you want to come out, come back in. We're going to hold for another minute or so. This can be held for 3 to 5 minutes. It's considered useful for your golf game if you're a golfer. I know I've got a few in the room here. And again, you might be like, why would that be? Well, think about the importance of being able to root and produce power. Boom. So of course, we can use this newfound strength in our bodies for all kinds of things. Notice thinking, return to breath watching. How does breath rise and settle in this shape? How does this shape feel to you? How much awkward, how much peaceful? I found it very awkward the first time I tried to lift my hips in this position. I was like, can I do that? I'm not sure which muscles do that. And now I really enjoy this pose. All right, coming slowly on down. Give yourself whatever shape your body craves. Some might be knees to belly. It might be just straightening the legs. And then we'll be coming into our next pose, reclined pigeon. Today we're doing both reclined pigeon and the more classic pigeon pose, which I don't always teach, as you know, but I'll be giving some guidance on how to do it where it's a little safer for knees and so on. For now, reclined pigeon, let's find out what's in our hips if you haven't already. Both feet start flat and then we cross the right ankle onto the left thigh, heels flex to stabilize the knee. Raise the left leg off the floor if you can. If you can't, you just leave it there. Grab a hold of that right knee and draw it towards your right chest. No wings, no shrugs, peaceful face and breath. And then send it a little towards the center line. For many of us, we won't have to go very far before we get something rather exciting and interesting. I'm hoping you're feeling kind of a deep massage sort of experience in that right glute hip area. You might also be feeling it in the IT bands, hamstrings. There's no bad place unless it feels bad. In your own time, of course, we'll switch. I always like to release the floor foot again before uncrossing. It's just a little. The right thigh, raising the right leg, hugging the left knee. Nice deep breath there, and then sending it a little towards the center line. Please always give breath the room that it needs to be as complete and full as possible. The breath is the change agent. It's really what makes yoga so transformative. You might be rolling the head a little side to side. In your own time, releasing. Let's come up to one more expression of bridge pose. Imagining that block between the thighs and work the shoulder blades underneath, perhaps taking the hands and intertwining the fingers, palms facing each other beneath the back yoga mudra. If you're doing that, intentionally press the fists towards the heels and the pinkies towards the floor. Again, if you're feeling neck pressure, tilt the chin up and back a little bit. And as we take 1, 2, or 3 more breaths, see if you can raise the ribs up off of the biceps. And I'm hoping if you're patient with that inhale and you get that last little sip, that you feel some pretty amazing stuff through the intercostals and diaphragm. Coming slowly down and bring knees to belly, spinal rocking up to cross-legged, or however you would like to get there. And then rolling forward onto hands and knees. We're gonna do a little classic pigeon, as I mentioned. And it's pretty simple, but if any part of it does not work for you, go do something else. We'll be with you in a sec, right? I'm gonna simply use my left foot to kind of raise my body up and bring my right knee behind my right wrist. We don't care how high up the mat the foot is. The mistake I think that a lot of people make in pigeon is they've been taught to try and crank that shin bone to parallel with the front of the mat. Please don't do that. Just bring your right knee behind your right wrist. Relax your back leg. So I'm coming onto the top of my foot and just letting my knee touch the floor. I'm going to keep my hands right here in a really powerful, intelligent hand position, shoulder heads down. And we're going to do a little pulsing. So right here, take an inhale, draw the heart forward. Make sure your hip bones are steering equally towards the floor. Exhale, slowly lower yourself like you want to kiss the floor, and maybe you do. You don't have to. Inhaling, draw the heart forward again. Big belly breath, so push the breath down into that low abdomen. And again, exhaling lower. Good. One more time, inhaling up. And if you can, you could use your right hand center for stability. Reach your left arm up and forward. I also know some people in this pose who happily reach back for that left ankle to get the quad and deepen the hip flexor and psoas stretch. When you feel ready to release, nice tuck of the tailbone, core support. Release that right leg and give it a kick. Yeah, good job, knee. Love ya. All right, now I'm going to bring that left knee behind the left wrist. Are some of you feeling the stretch in that psoas? Yes, great. It's kind of hard to get sometimes, especially because we don't tend to take enough breath down into there, and that's what will get you there. All right, big inhale, heart draws forward, shoulder heads are down. Exhaling, lower and kiss the earth. You can have your hands as wide as you want, by the way. Inhaling, draw forward, big belly breath. So again, really think about kind of tucking the tailbone a little, that'll intensify it. One more inhale, drawing the heart forward. And if you like, move your left hand a little center for support. Reach that right arm up. Big belly breath. Maybe you want to work your way into the ankle. I will warn you, if you're trying to get a hold of your ankle and it's not working, stop, because you will get a hamstring cramp. Because your hamstring's having to work so hard against the tension of the quadricep that it just goes. Is this side different? What have you found? When you're ready to release, again, nice core support, and release that left leg in again. Excellent. All right, we're coming into a little cow cat. If being on your hands like so is difficult for your wrists, go ahead and come into fists instead. Inhaling, heart drawing forward. So some of us might even feel a psoas stretch here if you get big inhale. Exhaling, tuck the tailbone. That head hang. We'll do a few more. So for those of you that were not looking when I was pointing out where the psoas is, it connects right in here to the inside of the hip bones, and it goes through and attaches back here. Kind of incredible. So when it's out of sorts, it can really wreak havoc on us. So notice, hopefully you were able to, with that kind of dual-sided pose, if one side feels a lot tighter, again, that can affect the back and the hips and so on. All right, we're going to come into our first downward facing dog, and I invite you to take those hands wider than the shoulders if you're feeling much kind of neck and trap tension already today. When you are ready, hips sending up and back, bending the knees. Always bend the knees as you enter downward facing dog, and take time to settle into the pose, and then you don't ever have to straighten. But please join me now in pedaling one heel towards the floor and then the other to work into that back body like we were talking about. Know that you can create more distance between the hands and the feet if you want. So if this is not feeling great, try walking your feet back a little bit. Puppy is a beautiful alternative stretch that will get us a nice shoulder stretch without the effort. Or if you're wanting just the hamstring stretch without any upper body stuff, forward fold is your good alternative for just working into those legs. Yeah, all right, you guys look good. Let's settle into child's pose. Take those knees out to the side. Yeah, and you can be anywhere in child's pose. Your arms might just be super relaxed. Or one of my favorite things is to extend them forward with my hips as far back towards my heels as I can, hands as far forward as I can. And I love actually just raising my head so I can swing my ribs a little side to side. And I find this to be a marvelous stretch for getting into that area along the lat muscle and stuff that connects into the shoulder blade. That's one of those secret treasure areas when I'm massaging people and you work that area, they're like, what is that? I'm like, yeah, I know. It's pretty intense on almost everybody because it's like what holds your arm on when you're out there doing stuff. So love it, love it. Let's find another sighing breath, just a deeper settling into this resting pose. So good to be in a body that can rest and find peace. Yum, yum. We're going to come into some action, some peaceful action in forearm plank. So tucking the tailbone, bring those knees in a little bit. Come onto your forearms. I like to position my hands where one is in a fist and the other just lightly wraps around. Why? Because I've noticed that if I intertwine my fingers, I grip them. That is what that comes into the category I describe as unnecessary tension. So keeping your eye on unnecessary tension, releasing it throughout, stepping back 1 foot at a time into your forearm plank. And if this just feels like too much, come down to knees and relax the feet. If you're on your knees, but you're craving like a little extra something, walk your elbows forward just like a ½ inch. Please find a sense of breath and peace inside of this action. If you're on feet, please remember to engage your thighs towards each other as if that is a game changer for your core. And if you want to know if that's true, very gently, don't go too much because you could hurt yourself. Try rotating your heels out intentionally and see how that feels, all right? So extrapolating from there, this is why that inner thigh deep glute that we were working on in butterfly, for example, or by squeezing the block and bridge, those muscles are important to our core strength, right? This pose proves that. If you roll those ankles out, you feel weak as heck and your back hurts. You angle them in and strong through the thighs, and you are a powerhouse. Even as a powerhouse, you might desire now to come out and onto your belly and rest. You guys were so quiet, I couldn't tell if you were just super peaceful or if you just weren't breathing. Not sure which it was. I know you guys at home were doing some good ujjayi. I can feel it. I know it. You might bend the knees and windshield wiper them side to side. You can also just rock the hips against the floor, rock, rock. Interestingly, this just rocking the hips is said to really help with mood and calmness. I'm guessing that maybe that it taps into the vagus nerve. We're going to return to forearm plank, and it's an opportunity to play and find out what your edge is. The edge is a place where we've not given up any of our integrity. We're still solid, we're not feeling any pain, we can breathe into it, but where there's some intensity that like you cannot make your grocery list, right? So what we did before might already be that edge for you, and that's great, knees or feet. If you would like to do some add-on on the feet, you might play with releasing one foot at a time, losing no integrity, I hope. Or you might play with frog pose. Similarly, you lose nothing. You bring your knee towards your tricep, hold and squeeze during the whole exhale, but without collapsing or changing the other leg, etc. And breathing. Woo, excellent. From here, we're going to either be doing quadricep stretch on our belly, or if you're doing it on your feet, you might press back to downward dog, walk your hands back to forward fold, and stand up. If you're doing the laying down version, I recommend anchor the pelvis and bring one forearm across in front of you. This allows two different things. One, it's a place to rest my forehead so I can breathe, my nose isn't smushed, but also so that as I go to reach, wrong foot, I go to reach for my ankle, I'm not flailing, I'm supported, and I'm doing kind of a back bend as I take hold of that ankle. Once you've got a hold of your ankle, whether you are on your belly or standing, see if you can bring the bent knee in towards the straight leg so that you've returned to that alignment, natural alignment. Good. You got it. Breathing, using the breath to bring the stretch. Use the breath. It's your change agent. It's your friend. When you feel complete release, standing folks, you can kind of give it a kick. Laying down folks, do what you gotta do. Sometimes it feels good to flex the foot underneath you and stretch that back side. What we're trying to do ideally in yoga is get to the point where the partnering muscle groups work evenly together. All right, so we're trying to create enough fluidity to invite that to happen. Enough engagement. Okay. And releasing out. All right, folks, we're gonna all come to standing. So those of you who are on your belly, go ahead and plant those hands, press back downward facing dog. Maybe you wanna find full breath. Those of you who are standing, ragdoll. Nice deep fold. You can swing your hips side to side and get to give some love to those IT bands and so on. And whenever you're ready, root and rise. You might come to prayer hands above you. And then exhaling, at some point, please find a jet airplane, standing jet airplane. We've been talking a lot about neutral in classes in the last couple of weeks. And a big part of neutral is making sure that the feet are parallel, that the tailbone is not tucked, but tucked enough that you feel that the pelvis is not tilted back, that xiphoid process ribcage area is back, and that the head is back in alignment with the spine. It's not forward. So just feel those things from the inside. I know you don't have a mirror, and perhaps it's just as well, because then we're more likely to tune into our architecture. Let it tell us. As I scan my body, am I feeling tension or holding or pressure anywhere? And can I release it through any small changes? Nice Ujjayi breath, that little throat contraction. Even though I'm holding a pose, quote unquote, it is not stagnant. It's moving because of the breath. The next time we're inhaling, a slow sweeping out and up through the arms. Is there more? Maybe the hands come together, maybe they don't, we don't care. Exhaling out and down. And as we continue this, I'll invite you to explore hand positions. So what does it feel like to flex the hands? Palms, like you're pushing walls away. What does it feel like to kind of point the fingers, tuck them in? I just feel like I'm making like a gooseneck or something. You might feel stretches in places that surprise us. Let's do one more in whatever hand position you like. Resolve in prayer hands at your heart space, connecting to the sternum. I'm going to come into a standing position for some psoas stretching. And the danger here, I will say, is that it's very easy to kind of crimp yourself or compress vertebrae because you're thinking about making back bends and stuff. So I want instead what we're going to do to be pretty subtle, and we'll see if we can all find that together. I'm going to start with hands on my hips for just stability. And I'm going to send my left foot back, essentially into crescent lunge, but I'm going to bend my knee and dip it a little bit. And then I'm going to reach up through the arms, and I'm just going to apply a deep breath and see if that right there already gets me a little stretch. And if not, then I'm going to send my ribs forward like there's a curved wall in front of me, and I'm going to look up, and now I'm going to take another deep breath. Big belly breath, push it down in there. Good, exhaling, prayer hands, neutral a little bit. We'll do that 3 more times. So whatever, is there anybody who just is not getting any stretch in there? Not surprised, really, not so much. Okay, I'll take a peek. When you are ready, 3 times, and inhale into your position. If looking up bothers the neck, tuck the chin, and exhaling, neutraling, and relaxing, whatever that means. And we'll do 2 more. A little bit. When you're ready, release downward facing dog. Nice core support. Think cat back as you bring belly to spine. Plant those hands and step back. Alternatively, if you're wanting to just hang out in ragdoll, child's pose, you've got options, right? Beautiful. Downward facing dog, pedaling, pressing the heels towards the floor. And then let's everyone find one full breath together where we press both heels into the floor. Big inhale. Exhaling, heels rooting, hips rising up and back, neck liberated. And then we're going to find the front of the mat. Maybe you want to lunge forward. Maybe you want to hop forward. And we'll explore on the other side. All right, when you're ready, we'll hands to hips, we'll step back with the right foot. We'll dip the right knee. And you can kind of experiment too, like if you put one hand on your belly and one on your low back, like what muscles does it take to get the pubic bone to tuck under a little bit? That's what's gonna partly get you into this stretch. And then as you're ready, arms up, big belly breath, push it down in there. Find your place, and then we'll do 3 of them, 3 more. So inhaling, we reach, exhaling, we return to our start, inhaling, we reach, and so on. Are you finding something with that adjustment you're making?
Yeah.
Cool. If you tip a little to the side, thank you, that's really useful. All right, and as you are ready on that last exhale, downward facing dog. Again, make sure belly is supporting spine, boom. And opportunity for resting or flowing dog series. Inhaling to your plank. Check that you are lifted in your core. You should be able to hop theoretically. If you'd like to go to knees, please do. Exhaling chaturanga, it might just be a 1-inch elbow bend, or you might slowly lower all the way. Eventually ending up on the belly for cobra pose, pelvis anchoring, or pressing through the hands so the hips are suspended, upward facing dog. And exhaling, press back, downward facing dog. I'm going to bring us into some shoulder stretching. We're going to thread the needle. I'm going to do a standing version today. If you like the child's pose version or being on hands and knees and table, where we sometimes come in and out, feel free. I'm going to be doing a standing version. I usually will take the arm kind of behind and in front a couple of times. And then I'm going to cross it and I'm going to use my other hand on the elbow and press it towards the body. And that should bring you into a stretch kind of through, in fact, that thing that we always point at and say, that's my shoulder, through that. But also, if you direct your attention to breath, I'm hoping you can blossom it right through there, like you're like opening wings out behind you. I've told you guys before that epiphany moment I had when I was watching a video of an opera singer and they videoed her from behind and she had a beautiful gown with this big deep V, and holy cow, you could see each breath, her ribs moved backwards and out every inhale. I'm like, oh, I guess the lungs are also in the back body. And as you're ready, we'll switch. And I often think about how it's just tragic that we really breathe in such a limited way, the majority of us humans, and how profoundly powerful it can be when we reactivate breath that truly fills the whole breath apparatus. And it's transformative physically, energetically, emotionally, affects our immune health, and just on and on and on. So again, other side, breathing deeply into the back body, noticing any differences. Yeah, maybe moving your head around. And then when I come out, I like to do a little circling. We're going to do some yoga mudra. You could do that in any position that you like, folks. Some of you I know like doing it in a standing straddle position. Some of you like doing it in bridge, which we already did once. If you are going to fold, please, when you do, make sure you're bending the knees if you choose to do that. Yeah, that's great. I already see some people grabbing their strap. Awesome. Because sometimes having just even an extra distance like this for the hands versus having to be like so can make the difference for folks. What we want is those shoulders to be able to rotate down and back. And again, to our point, if you're already feeling any kind of bicep tendon, shoulder pain, or bursitis, this may not be a great stretch for you at all today. So feel free to do other things while stretching and so on. But if you decide to not only take those hands off the hips, but to fold, please bend the knees so that you can get a really deep fold, letting gravity then help you so that those hands kind of come up and over a little bit more. So give you a little more space. Good job on getting the arms straight though. Yeah. And now, once you've got those arms kind of up over the head, then bring them back to your butt area and back up again. So a pulsing down to the butt and up over the head, down to the butt, slowly, right? To really respect all the intricate architecture. Yeah, looking good, you guys. And releasing. Ah. All right, it's time for a little dessert. However, I will warn you, we're not headed just straight into Shavasana. We're close, but I will be inviting a last like held posture when we're done with dessert. So for my dessert of the shoulder support, the shoulder exercise, I like putting something softer like this beanbag across the bra strap. If you decide to use a block, then please consider having something like this available for your head. So what we do is we come down onto our forearms and we want to make sure that that upper edge of the block is not under the blades themselves, but further down the body. And then reclining, we want our head to touch down in such a way that there's a little stretch through the front of the neck, but there is not any compression or loss of spinal extension in the back. And I'm happy to have this be a support for anybody who wants it. Yes. Thank you for letting me know Zoom had done a weird thing and then I came back and muted. So glad we've moved along. So I was just inviting everyone to notice which things really feel important to your body so that you can repeat them, especially since we won't be together in class next week. I am recording some things for my Patreon folks, so you'll have those to go to. And of course, I've always got my videos on YouTube, my overall library, so you could have fun with that too. All right, folks, when you come off, ever so slowly roll a little to the side so that you're not lifting your head directly up. We don't want to tighten that whole front of the neck, throat area. And I'd love you to move your objects aside, keep a block within reach because we're going to put that on the sacral area in a moment. But first, please just feel neutral. Lay flat. If you need your knees bent for your back, fine. If you can let them be straight, great. Of course, this is where we started our practice today together. And I'd love you to simply notice, how different is it? How different do you feel than when you entered today? This would be a great time to thank yourself for getting to the mat. That is such an achievement, a conversation with self and life around you, right? And then we're gonna do the, like I said, block under the sacral triangle. There are two distinct positions, right? One is with the knees bent and one is with the legs straight. I personally like starting with knees bent. So I lift the hips, place the block under the sacral triangle, not in the low back arch at all, right at that bony triangle, top of the crack of the butt. And I like to let my low back and belly kind of give into gravity and receive a sort of tractioning of the low spine. Do you guys feel that? Some of us maybe need it more than others. So it may not feel super intense on everybody, but that is a part of my body that really needs that tractioning. And then if you'd like, you could straighten the legs so that the body is just draped. But if your tailbone or pubic bone tilts down at all, then you want to bring that block a little lower on the body so that it's just suspending you right at your center. How does it change things if you tuck your shoulder blades a little in and down, maybe wing out the arms with the palms to the ceiling? This is a marvelous, gentle stretch and opening for that psoas muscle, as well as hip flexors, thighs, and so on. Deepening the breath will accentuate that. And you get to choose how much depth. And when you do come off, please bring knees to belly or some similar counter stretch. And I'd love to ask everyone to reflect in their own mind, what would be a great last held posture? They always said it for Palu, where I trained, that your Savasana is only as good as the posture right before it. You might do plank or forearm plank. You might hold a downward dog. Man, downward dog is so good, just dumping everything out of your head. I love it. Maybe you want to do crow pose. We kind of played with that a little bit last week. For those that are into that, that can be fun to play with. I'm not going to talk through the alignments of it. But a great one, if you're like, I'm already on my back and comfortable, I don't want to go anywhere, because I would ask you to do rock pose. Go in and out of rock pose, squeezing every muscle, scrunching up your face until you feel ready to just let go, soften, get heavy. Take time to prepare your resting. If you need a shawl, if you need to get something for under knees, for example, please do. We like to acknowledge that our yogic sleep time at the end, and something about Shavasana. If you're in corpse pose, that's technically Shavasana. these are the most important minutes of our practice. All of this beautiful preparation you've done, deep and focused breathing, of engaging partnering muscle groups, tapping into your neurology. All of this sets us up for a beautiful little reset. So please find a position that feels deeply supportive. Make adjustments if you need to. Once again, turn your gaze up and in. Release all breath effort. There is no breath focus, just the natural breath wave, gentle rising and settling, like a baby sleeping. Each exhale, you might feel gravity drawing you more deeply down and down and down. And slowly rise the breath to a gently larger wave. Each time you inhale, a little deeper wave, filling the body somewhere new, saying hello to your low back, your low belly, your upper chest, your ribs and intercostals. Maybe you imagine the breath wave making its way all the way to your amazing toes and heels, fingertips and wrists and scalp. Hope you'll find a beautiful love message to send along with that breath wave to all these parts of the body that are so amazing and resilient and wise. Recognizing even while we have pain or discomfort, that our body is constantly healing, calibrating on our behalf. It's brilliant. The majority of our systems are working very, very well. Thank you all so much for being here. You might choose to bring your hands together. Send that message of healing energy in towards chest or belly or face or whole being. To you, I say Om Shanti Shanti, Om Peace, Peace. Namaste. Have a great summer day. Have fun being you. I hope you do wonderful things. I hope you find wonderful ways also to relax and feel great in your body.